All right. Al Haymon, the most powerful man in boxing. Article just came out on The Atlantic. I'll give a little pub for The Atlantic on this one. Though I'm going to talk about the list they made and some things that I thought were very, very interesting. This is obviously on the business side of boxing. Al Haymon is a runaway for the top dude in boxing. Let's talk about that. But Eddie Hearn is in there too. Let's talk about it in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, I want to thank everybody that supports the channel in the live stream. That's the biggest part of this channel, the live streams we do Monday through Friday around 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. on Sunday for OG Boxing Talk at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Al Haymon, PBC, the guy that was going to go bankrupt, the guy that was he was the cancer of boxing, the guy that was putting on shows and never made anybody fight, all of that and yada, yada, yada. The guy who was going to be every week for the last 5 years has been going out of business, has been acknowledged by Mike Coppinger as the most powerful man in boxing. Now, the question is, can they be more obvious? Can anything be more obvious? Now, there was Eddie Hearn is on the list at number 4. And Mike Coppinger asked to think, to give replies to what you think of his list of the most powerful men in boxing. So that's what I'm going to do here. I agree with number 1 clearly. Al Haymon has got to be the most influential guy in boxing. And it has something to do with his business acumen, but a lot more to do with his influence with the people that matter most in the business side of boxing. The business side of boxing is the fighter and the middlemen. The fighter and the middlemen. Right? Because all people involved in boxing, the whole structure of the sport of boxing can be broken down into this. You have the boxer, you have the fan, you have the middleman, and you have the boxer. I am the fan, so I pay my money to watch the sport of boxing. The boxer wants my money, and they were willing to fight another boxer in order to get my money. The middlemen facilitate me being able to see the fight and the fighter being able to get their money. That's the 3 sections in boxing as I see it. The fan, the middleman, and the fighter. Now, and with the fighter, you can include his trainers, you can the people that help him get prepared, his team, right? The most powerful men in boxing, interestingly enough, on this list, were almost exclusively middlemen. Almost exclusively middlemen. You have Al Haymon, who's a middleman. You had the 2 fighters that I saw on there were Canelo Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Everybody else was either an executive. They were either an executive with a network. They were a promoter. They were a manager. Like I believe Louis DeCubas is a manager. Egas Klimas is a manager. They even had a way to throw Joe Tessitore at the end of the list, who is a commentator. Now, personally, I think this guy was a little in love. He's a little in love with ESPN because you could see ESPN and Top Rank. Because I do believe the people associated with Top Rank, there's like 5 people. Todd DeBuff, Bob Arum. I can't remember the name of the lawyer that is responsible, like the chief counsel for Top Rank, and you know what that means. He's eventually going to wind up moving over and being a promoter. But he also had guys like Steven Espinoza, John Skipper of ESPN, all of these different guys that are in the middle, who are in the middle of the sport, right? Who are all middlemen. But as far as it relates to, I'm going to hold this down specifically to talking about a couple. Al Haymon and Eddie Hearn. Al Haymon, most obviously he has the biggest deals because he has a deal with Showtime and he has a deal with Fox, right? So as far as the two outlets, having outlets to provide the fighter to the fight fans, to them to be able to be seen, Al Haymon has the best network deals in the biggest area in boxing. The Fox deal is probably the biggest, followed by maybe the ESPN, then Showtime, then that Raggedy Ann app called The Zone that don't nobody have, right? But so Al Haymon has two of the top four network deals are with Al Haymon, almost exclusively Al Haymon and the PBC, which allows him to also give access to other promoters to those platforms for other people that were named in the this list, like like the promoter from Ringstar, Richard Schaefer. But the most important reason that Al Haymon is the most powerful man in boxing does not have to do with the networks. It has everything to do with the fighters. If Al Haymon did not have the relationship that he has with the fighters, Al Haymon would not be where Al Haymon is as far as people perceiving him and the actual fact that the guy is the most powerful man in boxing. When you have fighters, the people who are ultimately the product, because two things you can't have boxing without. You can't have boxing without the boxers, and you can't have boxers without the fans. You can theoretically have boxing without the middleman, though. You can, there ain't as much money facilitating it. It doesn't work as well, but it's hypothetically, it's possible to have that be the case. And actually the PBC has limited some of that middleman-ishness when it goes, when you start talking about fighters having their own promotional companies like Man Down Promotions, Bomb Squad Promotions. Mikey Garcia had his own promotional thing. Now it seems like he's interested in going to partner with Eddie Hearn. But regardless, that's the main reason why I think that Al Haymon is the most powerful man in boxing, because he has so much influence and he's so revered by the most important people in the sport of boxing, which are the boxers. And I would say they're more important than the fans, because the sport of boxing is a sport. And if these guys wanted to get together and fight one another, they could still box. There can be no boxing without the boxer. Al Haymon has mastered the art of looking out for the best interests of the boxer, and then taking that goodwill in those relationships and parlaying it into relationships with very important middlemen, distribution networks, Fox and Showtime. And also Showtime's parent company, I do believe, shout out to 78 Sports TV who sent me this, was also I think it was recombined or partnered again. I'm not sure exactly what the business relationship is with Viacom, which means that these guys have significantly more money. They have significantly more money. There's a lot of interest in the sport of boxing. That means that Showtime could have access to even more money to put towards their marquee fighters that they have on that network, like Gervonta Davis, who I do believe is one of the top pound for pound fighters in boxing. And I don't care what you guys think. I can look at what that dude does in the ring and know that there are not a significant number of people that are that skilled, that talented, and that ferocious, and at this young age with that much experience. Anyway, it is what it is on that. Now, comparing him to number 4, Eddie Hearn, I disagree. I don't know. First of all, if you take the UK and you say, okay, Eddie Hearn is the biggest promoter in the UK. Okay, he's the biggest promoter in the UK who has lost his top guys. Anthony Joshua does not hold any belts. He's one loss away from oblivion. And that loss is, you're right on the precipice with that. Also, you have Dillian White with that big steroid scandal and the glove scandal. and the fact that he got removed from the rankings of several sanctioning bodies, nah, it's tough. He doesn't have the depth. He doesn't have the depth or the superstar that's a really top level guy. So you really he's got the UK market so down. But in the United States, it's hard for me to have him at number 4 when I do believe the guy had John Skipper at number 7. John Skipper is the guy with the budget for DAZN USA. And so I'm not quite sure how you can put John Skipper several notches below the guy who he's paying and without who he would have to go to Showtime, or he would have to go to, because if Eddie Hearn couldn't deal with John Skipper, Eddie Hearn would have to deal with Bob Arum, or he would have to deal with Al Haymon through Fox or Fox or Showtime. So I'm not really buying it. His product, the product that he's selling isn't that good. His reputation with boxers is not outstanding, especially now that he did that to Oscar Rivas. So people might even be more hesitant to fight on his card. But, he was looking good a couple of years ago. You know how boxing is. Hey man, things can change. He might look good in a few years, but right now I ain't buying it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.